Okay, just imagine for a second. You're carrying this invisible backpack,
Yeah.
and it's not filled with books or anything. It's loaded up with every little failure, every regret, every harsh word you've ever said to yourself. And when someone asks, hey, how are you doing? The answer is almost always, automatic. I'm fine. But that quiet internal weight, it's always there, isn't it? So today, we're actually going to open that backpack. We're doing a deep dive into self-compassion. We'll use a set of, well, pretty realistic scenarios, almost like a gentle mirror held up to your own habits. Our mission here is simple, to help you gain some real actionable knowledge about your inner world and maybe start answering that big question. How kind are you really to yourself?
It's such a vital question because, psychologically speaking, we humans are often brilliant at being kind to others. Your best friend messes up, you're right there with understanding, support. But when you make that exact same mistake, poof, that kindness often just vanishes. A person looking back from the mirror, they usually get the toughest judge. So yeah, we're here to pull out the insights you need to make self-kindness less of a special occasion and more of a foundational skill, something almost automatic.
Exactly. We want to get past the sort of fluffy ideas of self-care sometimes and really look at the mechanics. Think of it like rewiring your default settings will condense these complex patterns into themes that hopefully stick with you, make the psychology memorable. So let's start by looking at the architecture, the blueprint of that inner critic,
Yep.
a voice of immediate judgment. First scenario, you make a small mistake, something avoidable, maybe you forget something important for work, or you just mess up a simple task. What's the very first thought that pops into your head? Is it that quick, sharp, maybe even insulting thought, like, "Ugh, you idiot"? Or is it something softer?
That exact moment, that's the battleground, really. That inner critic, that
Yeah.
harsh, automatic voice. It's not just annoying, it actually causes psychological wear and tear. When insulting ourselves is the default, we spike our own stress hormones, we activate that fight or flight response, and we end up just dwelling on the failure, the kinder path. It starts with recognizing, hey, everyone messes up, pausing that insult, and then consciously choosing to talk to yourself like you would talk to, well, that dear friend you'd be so understanding with. It's a deliberate pivot.
But the critic doesn't just stop with internal jabs, does it? It immediately looks outward, which I think leads us right into the comparison trap. You see someone else's success, maybe online, maybe at work, and bam, that feeling hits you. I just don't measure up. We burn so much energy comparing, don't we? We completely miss appreciating our own path.
Oh, comparison is absolutely exhausting because you're constantly trying to measure your unique self against someone else's highlight reel or their specific metric. It's apples and oranges. Developing self-compassion helps you shift the goalposts. The focus becomes, well, celebrating your own uniqueness, noticing your progress on your journey rather than agonizing over some perceived gap. And this connects directly to how we handle criticism when it comes from others, that mirror of others.
Yeah, that's a perfect link because if you get some constructive feedback, let's say on a project, and your internal critic is already screaming, you don't just hear feedback on the task, you hear, you're fundamentally flawed or you're worthless.
Precisely. Low self-compassion tends to take criticism as a personal, complete invalidation. It triggers defensiveness, feelings of worthlessness. It's painful. The self-kind option is to see criticism more like data, information, something you can potentially use to grow, not a final verdict on your character. And when you're constantly fighting these internal battles, the self-insults, the painful comparisons, taking criticism so personally, the research is incredibly clear on this. Low self-compassion makes everyday stress, sadness, disappointment. It makes it all feel fundamentally heavier than it needs to be. It's like having a faulty internal alarm system that magnifies the threat instead of helping you manage it.
That makes so much sense. So if we're constantly beating ourselves up internally and making external criticism feel like a personal attack, we inevitably carry that stuff forward, right? So how do we actually put down the weight of past mistakes? How do we stop, endlessly processing the past?
We all carry that psychological baggage, those moments we regret, things we wish we'd done differently. The default critical setting loves to replay those tapes, doesn't it? Feeding shame, keeping guilt alive. But forgiving yourself, truly forgiving, is essential if you want to move forward. You can't walk freely if you're dragging chains.
Okay, but what does that forgiveness look like? It's not just waving a magic wand and saying, I forgive myself, is it?
No, not usually. It's intentional work. It often means actively reminding yourself that back when that mistake happened, you were doing the best you could with the knowledge, the resources, the emotional state you had at that specific time. It's about acknowledging the error, yes, but without crucifying your entire self for it. That separation allows you to genuinely forgive and let go, to distinguish who you were then from who you are now and who you're becoming.
Okay, that separation is key. Let's pivot a bit from that mental weight to physical exhaustion, because this feels like another place the inner critic loves to sabotage us. The guilt around resting. We've all been there, running on empty, desperately needing a break, but feeling this intense guilt just thinking about stopping. Why is rest so loaded for so many people?
Well, for many, self-worth gets completely tangled up with productivity. The equation becomes, if I'm not producing, I'm failing, or I'm lazy. So we push through exhaustion feeling like you haven't truly earned the right to pause. And that internal narrative, that's actually a habit of self-cruelty.
But hang on, isn't there a risk there? I mean, I think a lot of listeners might worry about this. How do you draw the line? How do you know it's genuine self-kindness, needing rest, and not just, well, procrastination or letting things slide?
That is a fantastic and really common question. And it points to a crucial distinction, the difference between self-kindness and self-indulgence. Self-kindness is usually rooted in genuine need and thinking about long-term well-being. If you're truly exhausted, rest isn't lazy, it's necessary maintenance for future functioning. It's actually responsible. Self-indulgence, on the other hand, often stems from avoiding difficult but necessary tasks or seeking pleasure in a way that undermines your goals or health. So the kind choice when you're depleted is allowing yourself to rest without that layer of guilt, knowing that recovery isn't a luxury, it's vital upkeep.
That reframing rest as maintenance, not luxury, that feels like a game changer. And it connects straight into claiming your needs, right? If we feel guilty just resting, we're probably going to feel even guiltier asking for something else we need.
Absolutely. There's often this deep fear that expressing a need, whether it's emotional support or help with a task or just setting a boundary, will make us seem like a burden. That critical voice whispers, just keep quiet, handle it yourself, don't bother anyone. But honoring your needs openly, learning to communicate them kindly and clearly, that's actually one of the bravest, most powerful acts of self-kindness. It's a statement that your well-being matters, that your stability is worth protecting. So once we start getting a handle on forgiveness and rest, we need to actually let the good stuff in too. Which brings us to success and validation. Let's talk about that. When someone genuinely praises you or you achieve something you worked hard for, what's your gut reaction?
Oh, deflection. Almost always, yeah.
Yeah.
Immediately downplay it. Oh, it was nothing. Or seriously, anyone could have done that. Why do we do that? Why do we bat away compliments like they're, I don't know, annoying flies?
It's often a kind of deep-seated humility defense mechanism, isn't it? Frequently tied back to feelings of low self-worth. If we fully accept the compliment, maybe we feel vulnerable or like we're setting ourselves up for future failure, or maybe we worry about seeming arrogant. Self-kindness asks you to consciously reverse that habit. It encourages you to actually accept compliments gracefully and to celebrate your wins, even the small ones. Don't just brush it off. Let yourself actually feel proud, maybe even savor it. You earned that feeling, so allow it to land.
Savoring, I like that word. It implies intention, doesn't it? Taking a moment. Okay, let's bring that same intentionality into how we handle tough emotions, the act of internal soothing. When real sadness or anxiety hits that heavy feeling we mentioned at the start, what's the internal response? What do you do for yourself in that moment?
Well, if low self-compassion is running the show, the tendency is often to either blame ourselves for feeling bad, oh, why am I so sensitive,
Yeah.
or to try and just numb it, bottle it up, push it down, ignore it. But that suppressed energy, it doesn't just disappear, it tends to fester. The kind response is more like emotional first aid. It involves using kind thoughts, maybe gentle actions, perhaps a specific comforting ritual you have, maybe just slowing down your breathing, putting a hand on your heart, basically, comforting yourself like you would comfort a dear friend who is hurting.
So it's less about instantly fixing the feeling and more about acknowledging the pain with gentleness, meeting it with kindness instead of judgment.
Exactly. And the final piece that ties all these actions together is consistency, the daily practice. These aren't just things you do once in a crisis. Enjoying a small treat mindfully, saying no kindly to protect your energy, taking 60 seconds just to breathe when things feel frantic. These seem like tiny choices, but consistency is everything. Are you practicing self-kindness sporadically, or are you trying to weave it into the fabric of your days, intentionally? That daily intentionality, that's what really builds the muscle.
Okay, so let's try and bring all these different choices, these habits together. If you've been sort of tracking along, thinking about your own default responses, the harsh ones versus the kind ones, we can maybe translate that into a kind of map for growth. So if you found yourself relating most to those descriptions, where the critical voice still seems to win out most of the time, let's call that tender beginnings, what's the absolute most important psychological shift to focus on first?
It really boils down to one word: awareness At this stage, you might find it much easier to comfort others than yourself. You might automatically attack yourself for mistakes. The crucial first step isn't even necessarily changing the behavior right away. It's simply noticing. Noticing that harsh inner voice when it kicks in, becoming aware of the automatic cruelty. You
Over.
can't consciously choose gentleness if you don't first recognize the alternative that's running on autopilot. Awareness creates that vital pause, that moment of choice.
Right, just seeing it clearly.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what about for those who are maybe warming up? They are practicing self-kindness sometimes, but they find themselves getting pulled back into those old critical patterns pretty often. What's key here?
This is where it's so important to emphasize. Self-compassion isn't like flipping a switch. It's a high-level psychological skill. And like any skill, it's built through practice, through repetition, through messing up and trying again. If you're in this warming up phase, you're likely wrestling with what we could call the guilt mechanism. Feeling bad, feeling selfish maybe, when you try to prioritize your own needs or rest. The most powerful strategy here is, I think, to replace that paralyzing guilt with genuine curiosity. Instead of just beating yourself up for feeling guilty about resting, ask yourself gently, why does caring for myself feel like I'm doing something wrong? Where did I learn that? Curiosity helps you dismantle the guilt at its roots, rather than just fighting it on the surface.
Replacing judgment with curiosity, I feel like such a core insight, especially for that middle ground. Okay, now moving up the scale. If you found yourself nodding along more with the descriptions of growing self-kindness, consistently trying to balance honesty about flaws with gentleness, what does that signify psychologically?
You're demonstrating something psychologists call healthy self-regulation. It's this beautiful balance. You're not ignoring your mistakes or pretending setbacks don't happen. That's the honesty part. But you're approaching those challenges with kindness, support, and a focus on learning, rather than with harsh self-criticism. This balance acts like a powerful protective shield for your mental health. It means you can stumble, maybe even fall, but you can get back up, course correct, and keep moving forward without it turning into a major personal crisis. The work here is really about reinforcing those positive habits. Keep savoring the wins, however small. Keep giving yourself permission to rest without apology. Strengthen that muscle.
And finally, for those who really recognize themselves in the descriptions of consistent, mindful self-care, the self-kindness champions, let's say, what are the deeper outcomes we see linked to this high level of self-compassion?
Well, the research here is really exciting. This level of consistent self-kindness is strongly linked to greater overall happiness and life satisfaction, definitely, but also to healthier, more balanced relationships, less codependency, better boundaries, and crucially, it's linked to incredible resilience. Doesn't mean you won't face stress or hardship. Of course you will, but you bounce back faster. You navigate challenges with more internal resources. You protect your energy more effectively. And for these high scorers, perhaps the final call to action is about sharing the light, mentorship, sharing what works for you, maybe subtly, maybe directly. Your journey can genuinely inspire others and help ripple more kindness out into the world.
So when we take this whole inventory of our inner life, all these scenarios and choices, what does it all boil down to? I think the core message, the big takeaway, is that you're not stuck. You're not permanently wired to be self-critical. Every single choice we talked about today, it's a behavior, it's learnable. And every tiny decision to pause instead of react, to breathe, to choose a gentle thought instead of a harsh one, it really does add up. It builds slowly but surely towards a softer, braver, and definitely a more resilient life.
Absolutely. And that level of mindful attention, that quality of care, it's fundamentally deserved. Think about it.
Yeah.
When life gets chaotic, when the world outside is demanding and maybe even harsh, who needs your kindness and support the most? It's usually the person looking back at you in the mirror, paying attention to that internal self, giving it the rest it needs, the forgiveness it deserves, the honest but kind communication it requires. That's arguably the most powerful, sustainable investment you can ever make.
So maybe the final thought to leave you with is this. If self-kindness is a habit, a skill that genuinely builds resilience and deeper happiness, what's one new, intentional, maybe even tiny choice you could make today, or even right now? Will it be allowing yourself that moment of guilt-free rest tonight? Will it be fully taking in the next kind word someone offers you, really savoring it? The choice to start nurturing your own internal safe place, even when everything else feels uncertain. That choice is always available, and it starts the moment you decide to make it.